Others doubt that there are any objectively, universally right political or moral principles at all, because they say their validity is relative to a society and a culture. Now, this is the problem of moral realism versus moral relativism. Moral realism believes the morality or immorality of acts has an objective status we can know. When you say something's right or wrong, you're talking about something objectively true or false. Moral relativism believes good and evil are relative to who is judging them or to the society of the judge. So an act or event can be good or right for X, but at the same time, evil for Y. Let's examine this for a moment. Relativism of any kind says that something is relative to something else. Whether I have the property tallness is relative to who you compare me to. Next to a jockey, I'm tall. Next to an NBA forward, I'm short. But whether I'm male or I have 10 fingers doesn't change no matter who you compare me to. You compare me to a being with 30 fingers, I still have the same number. Relativism in philosophy says that either the truth or moral goodness or political rightness of a statement or act is relative to something other than what it's about, that is relative to something about the people making the judgment or statement. If you think the truth is relative to social convention, then you have to believe that when people thought the sun revolved around the earth, it really did for them. The truth is relative to what society believes. But even if truths about facts are not relative, so if you say, well, that's silly, it was always false that the sun revolves around the earth, and if you say certainly 2 + 2 is 4 is real and not relative, nevertheless, some people still think that value statements like morality are relative, and hence politics. Well, let's take 3 examples. I start by asking you a question. What is the best flavor of ice cream? Now, the right answer is maple walnut. So if you didn't say that, you're wrong. Now, what's strange about what I just said? What's strange is that I acted as if there were an objectively right answer to that question. But you and I probably both believe there is no objectively best flavor of ice cream, because bestness of ice cream is a matter of subjective taste. Subjective meaning personal. Let's take a second case. Is it wrong to drive on the left side of the street? Suppose after I leave the studio today outside Washington, D.C., I drive down the left side of the street. A policewoman stops me, tells me it's wrong to drive on the left. I say, young lady, I'm a philosopher. I object to this. Is there anything intrinsically wrong with leftness? Is there something about left that's different from right? The two sides of the streets look the same. But she responds to me, listen, fellow, we have to have people driving on one side of the street in one direction and on the other side for the other direction to avoid accidents. You're quite right. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with leftness or rightness. We could have picked the left to drive on instead of the right. What makes your driving wrong is social convention. Now that we've agreed, it is wrong to violate the convention. So she gives me the ticket. Let's take a last case. Suppose after the policewoman tickets me and lets me go, she's called to the hotel where I'm staying. The people in the room next door are upset. They say that I've eaten their children. The policewoman says, you again? I tell her, where I come from, the society I come from, it's not wrong to eat children. What's her response? It'll be quite unpleasant, we imagine. But essentially she will say, it doesn't matter where you come from, it's wrong. Now, what makes it wrong to eat other people's children, or your own children for that matter? I'm not denying that it's wrong. I'm asking what makes it wrong. Is it subjective taste? Meaning the policewoman could say, it's wrong because I don't like it. We say no, it's much worse than that. It's not a matter of subjective taste. Well, suppose she says this. Suppose she says, well, it's wrong because in this society where you're sitting, it's wrong. So by social convention, you are guilty of an evil act. Now that might be, but it also implies that if the convention were different, then it wouldn't be wrong. In other words, is this wrongness universally, objectively true, or a matter of convention? If it's not convention, then you probably believe it is a morally realist claim. That is, you might believe that the wrongness of eating human children is not taste or relative to social belief. It's wrong, period. And no social agreement could make it right. Therefore, if there is a society that accepts it as right, that society is wrong. Just like a society that believes the earth is flat is wrong. It's a fact that different peoples have different beliefs. But from a realist point of view, some of them are wrong. Notice, by the way, if I say, quote, no one person or society may impose their moral strictures on another's, unquote. That is not moral relativism. It's actually a case of moral realism. Look what it says. It asserts a universal rule of tolerance that holds whether people believe it or not. The relativist version of the claim would be to say, well, whether it's wrong to impose your society's values on another depends on your society's values. If your society thinks it's right to impose itself on others, it's right. If it thinks it's wrong, it's wrong.